Oh, hi, my name is Rachel Craigie with eXp Realty, and welcome to our last part of the nuts and bolts of how to create a legal second suite. This is my favorite one. In this particular one, we'll be listening to our three different experts that we've brought on. They are going to analyze three different properties, looking at the style, where they're located, as well as whether or not the cost makes sense. And they're going to vote and give it a yay or nay, whether or not they would purchase for investment. So I think this is a really good one for you to attend. If you saw no others, I really like this one. Anyway, if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching and enjoy. Take care.
So this is, if you were look at the listing, there's the property. It's a typical 2.5-story home. You know, it's roughly almost 100 years old. Total square footage, almost 25 square feet. And it has an unfinished basement. So what I wanted to do and have a look at here is for you guys, here is it. I took just the floor plan for the basement that's unfinished. So you can see like these two supports here. Here's the support. You would access the basement. You've got stairs at the side. Here's all your windows. You've got a small area here for a storage area. And the ceiling height's only 61.5 inches. Now these, just to say before we get into these properties, you know what, in all fairness, not every property is going to work. So, you know, we'll see what the experts say. But there's also an attic at the top. I'm not sure if an attic is something that you can work with, but Ken and Alejandro, why don't you give us your input as to if you were going to add an additional suite to this property, how you would go about it. If I can move this over. I think you can actually draw directly on, you should be able to access the whiteboard and just grab the draw, and you should be able to draw it on if you can.
Right. Can you please you first? Yeah.
Okay, so I'll try my best. My internet's not the greatest connection, but we'll do our best. So obviously the first thing I look into is the zoning. Obviously we've indicated it's an R1A zone in Hamilton. So this is great because we can potentially do up to 4 units per zoning, okay? So that's either 4 within the principal building as it sits there today, or you could do 3 in the principal building plus, you know, potentially a detached coach house. So there's potential there for greatness. However, you know, we still have constraints with the existing building and the existing lot. Okay. When
this was one of those properties you talked about where here's the front of the property, there's the front of the lot compared to the building. It doesn't actually go, like you say, right to the street.
Yeah, so this is where it's really important to look at those maps to see where that front lot line is. Because that's going to ultimately impact potentially parking. Now, when I look at the backyard space, to me, it seems tight for a, you know, a detached like coach house, given these setbacks we would have to maintain. Not that it's not impossible. It just depends on how small and tiny of a unit you want to put there. Like I said, the minimum, you know, tiny home is like 188 square feet. So not to say it's not impossible that you couldn't do like a container home or a tiny home or something back there. It's just that it may not be practical from a construction perspective or may not be feasible. When we look at the existing house, you know, potentially you could do a basement apartment, main floor apartment, and a second floor apartment. Not sure about that half story, if there's enough head clearance up there to get a 4th unit. When I look at the listing photos, the basement ceiling height looks a little low. It might be okay.
It's just over 61 inches.
Yeah, okay, so
under the beam.
So in Hamilton, as a house up to 2 units, you know, we would need 77 inches finished for that height. If you want to be a triplex and make that basement into a unit, we now have to comply with the Ontario code, which would be 83 inches finished in that basement. So it looks like you're into probably
What kind
under,
of cost?
you're probably into underpinning. Underpinning for something like this, honestly, it really depends on the contractors. We get quotes all over the map. And probably for underpinning on a house like that, I would say starting at 50,000 and could be upwards of 80,000. For underpinning, it's very labor intensive. That's why the cost is extremely high. But look, square footage is getting increasingly expensive with real estate, right? So potentially to get a third unit in this house, okay, it's going to cost you maybe an extra, 50, 60, 80 grand to underpin to kind of get you started. It may be worth it. We're doing a lot of projects now in these old century homes, and we are benching, we are underpinning, we are spending the money to get that extra space because it's hugely valuable. One thing you got to keep in mind with this house, I believe it's fully renovated. So oftentimes when we're converting a house, especially into a duplex or even a triplex, sometimes we have to undo a lot of what was done before in order just to legalize it. So you just got to be very careful that you don't overpay for fully renovated houses that you're planning to convert, because you might be overpaying for something that you're going to redo half of it.
Okay.
So that's just one caveat I see with a lot of renovated spaces is the more finished, the more frustrating it can be.
What about yourself, Alejandro? What do you add anything else to this, or?
I guess the only thing I would add was that, yeah, that is a really important point about it already being finished.
Yeah, because
and so,
yeah.
and the basement, I mean, that's you're also like getting into unknowns when you start to underpin. Like you might discover like how low is the invert for the sewage, for example. Are you going to have to do a pump for that basement apartment? And it's just another cost. But when I see something like this, and in the context of, now the province is saying you're going to be able to build 3 anywhere as of right, I start to think about these a little differently. I would almost leave the house intact as it is, and think about a rear addition that is, I think like a minimum unit that we look at is 20 by 20. So 400 square foot bachelor unit. When you have those dimensions of 20 by 20, which I think you can achieve here, you can do some really interesting things with the layout and with the storage, combining the bachelor, sort of bedroom with the living space that works really well. So yeah, maybe there is enough. Maybe there isn't enough space. What I see with this one is there isn't enough space in the backyard for a laneway suite. But given that you can do an attached sort of addition, I would look into the opportunity of an attached addition to this building, and just kind of leave and don't touch the existing house, leave it intact.
That property that you showed us, was it in Little Italy?
Yeah.
That one got me wondering, what if you were to and I'm just asking you guys what you think, what if you did that addition and split the house in half here and did like 1 unit in the front and 1 in the back, and then maybe had the additional unit on top or in the basement?
Well, this like 20 by 20 square, that could be stacked. You could have 2 stacked units, for example.
Okay.
One on top of the other, and that's what triplex, a triplex basically, if you're allowed to, once you're allowed to do that as an attached building, that's the kind of opportunities in terms of the space planning that this opens up. And I see, again, more opportunity in just less complexity in an attached building than having to like do the service connection all the way down this driveway, snaking it to a new building, a new laneway suite at the back, which is going to be quite small to begin in any case.
If we look at the numbers, okay, because as an investor, you guys are looking at the numbers. I mean, I'm just putting together some rough numbers here because I'm not sure how you guys would, if you were to break it up into 3 units, you may do a bachelor, a 1 bedroom and 1 2-bedroom or something like that. And then if you look at the increase in equity, would and I'm going to put a little vote out there. I'm going to go to you, to the three of you. Alejandro, would this be a property you might consider purchasing and taking on, or do you think it's worth it?
Mm,
It's okay to say no.
no. Yeah,
No?
no.
Ken, what about you?
Me personally, no, but there's people with deeper pockets than me, perhaps, who would be able to
Sorry,
make a profit.
What was the question there? I had to step out for a second.
My question is, if we look at the potential income you could get for a property like this, and the increase in equity after you go and you add those additional units, I'm putting it out there to you. Would this be an investment that you might consider as an investor?
What was the purchase price?
Well, we'd be starting in at around 650 because it's renovated.
That's what makes it tough.
I don't know, like a triplex, fully renovated triplex right now, like you're lucky to get 900,000, 1 million, maybe 1.1 in today's market. Like, I don't think, for me, there's not enough upside potential on the property. I do like the idea of the addition, you know, that could be a very viable option. You know, because the alternative is to underpin the basement. So either way, like this basement unit there is going to be that third unit is going to be very costly to add, no matter how you slice it, because an addition is not cheap either. And I think, you know, your max value you're going to get out of this place is maybe 1.1 million, max.
Lisa, what do you think?
So
would you buy it? Would this be an investment for you as a finance person?
Well, it would all depend on my cash position, because I know the basement, and I'm not going to use the right terminology, but that the ceiling's too low, so it needs to be brought up, because I'd want it to be a legal suite, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm correct, like whatever that term is, is it raising the subfloor? So, you know, I think it would just depend on the cost of that construction in total, and then compared to other properties that don't require it. So I think it's a pass for me.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. If we look at property number 2, this is a different property.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
With regards to the basement, right? Could you, because of the basement height, could you leave the basement, right, and turn the main floor and basement into a unit, or do you still have to have the legal height in order for you to actually use the basement for anything? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it becomes a 2-floor unit, right? For one unit, then you have the second floor unit, right?
And then the third floor for the attic.
Yeah, and then maybe you're doing something like you were saying, there's an extension, or or something on the third floor where you stretch it out a little bit, or something along those lines. Just because you know the investment into the basement, right? You know, and underpinning is so expensive. You turn the main floor into a main floor basement as one unit, maybe get a little bit more of a premium rent because of that, higher rent, because there's more space, right? And then the second floor as a unit, and then third floor as a unit.
Good question. What do you guys think?
I think it would be a duplex in this case, right? If you have like the upper and then the main includes the basement. So it's not, I don't know if it would need to meet code. It's not a separate living quarters, right?
Sorry,
No.
I missed who asked that question. Who was asking that? Was it George? I missed who it
Yeah,
was.
George.
Yeah. So George, are you thinking then that the attic area, they would use like a bachelor kind of
So
added unit there too, or?
Yeah, I mean, you could, make that into a bachelor, or you could just make this into two-story duplex units, right? And then try to get more premium rent out of that.
What do you guys think?
Well, if it wasn't like a renovated house, maybe that would be a good approach, perhaps. But like, given the purchase price for me and the fact that it's all renovated, so you got to undo a bunch of work. Basically, if you're slicing it up that way, you have to
Mhm.
undo a lot of work, create a new kitchen upstairs. Who knows? I mean,
So I guess one question that I'm trying to get at is, with a 2-story unit, main floor and basement, do the minimum height requirements still come into play?
Yeah. So like legally, if you want to finish a basement in Hamilton, it's got to be 77 inches finished for the main height. And like, so even if the main floor and basement was considered one dwelling unit, if you wanted to make any sort of legal, livable, habitable space that's finished, has to be 77 inches down there. So as it sits today, it have to remain unfinished. Like the city would not allow you to install drywall down there,
Mhm.
you know, because of the height.
Like you wouldn't get a permit to do the work.
Well,
Right.
you can do whatever you want off permit, right?
Mhm. But to renovate without raising,
Yeah, but 60 inches, like, you know, unless you're a midget, you're not gonna want to live down there.
Never know. Okay, well, let's look at
yeah, I
the,
don't know. I don't think it's good to combine like sort of illegal aspects with legal ones. That then you get into sort of uncertainties, I think.
Yeah,
That would be my 2 cents on that.
well,
You could leave
let's
it
go
as an
back to-
unfinished, like,
yeah.
paint the joists and it's kind of like a loft space or something. I don't know, game room, but you couldn't, like, I don't think, market it as a second bedroom. You can't even call it a second bedroom on a permit, on a building permit, if it doesn't have the right height. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just quickly move to number 2. We do have, and interestingly, we do get a lot of rentals and duplexes conversions in the Hamilton Mountain. So here's one that's it's on the corner of Mohawk. It's not a large bungalow, but if I just move out to the sorry, if I just move out to the layout of it, and I'm just going to say this is strictly for demonstration purposes. There's no guarantees here, but you can see the layout. Here's the bungalow as it sits on the lot, and you have the access to parking, which is off of Mohawk. Right, here's your main level. So your front door is here, and but you would access the house coming through a 3-season sunroom, where you would come into the kitchen, and here you have your stairs to the basement. So in this particular situation, ceiling heights, I measured the basement. The ceiling height overall was 78 inches in this basement, which is finished. And then underneath, there's a support beam that runs where this wall is right here. There's a support beam, and the height of that is 70.5 inches. So, if you were going to tackle this in terms of a renovation, or sorry, as a conversion, how would you I mean, I guess you have a pretty good idea how you would do it. Would you put on a second story on this one, Alejandro? Would you consider it?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about a second story.
Second unit on top?
No, it seems more like a far less invasive intervention would be to do a flush beam, if that beam was there here, on the other side of that wall, wherever it is, and trying to do a basement apartment there, provided that height is there, for City of Hamilton, right? Like it's 77 inches as.
So the height's 78.
Oh, sorry, 78. But since it's national, so that's one thing that I've learned today, Ken, thank you, that building code applies to a duplex, national building code in Hamilton, that's what they're using.
Yeah,
for basement heights on a
Hamilton,
duplex.
they're one of the very few municipalities. There's a few others out there that will follow national code just for heights in particular. That's the only code they're following, is the heights for national code. Everything else is still Ontario code.
Yeah.
But one idea is sometimes if you have a low beam and you don't want to spend the money on a flush beam, you are allowed a reduction in door heights. So if you have a partition wall along that beam and you just have a doorway,
Right.
you are allowed, the code is, somewhat gray, but you're allowed a reduced door height to match the ceiling height. And so when you come underneath the beam, if it's just a doorway, you can be quite low,
Mhm.
So that's another way around it.
Okay, so in terms of financing, I guess, for Lisa, let's say if we were to position this property, maybe it was a first-time home buyer. You know, do you think like any advice for these people if they wanted to take this on and try to add an additional legal suite?
So
Like
I
what kind of down payment they might want to have or anything like that?
Well, I think that what it comes down to is what's required in that basement to make that a legal suite. So there's the recreation room and a bedroom. So you need a kitchen and a bathroom and whatever walls. So they would work with, their contractor to get a sense with these guys and get a sense of what is required and then what's that cost look like. And then we do it from there. And then is it structural work? I don't know if it would be because I don't know if any load-bearing walls are being knocked out or just walls being put up, but we would look at the quote and understand the total cost to see if this is more of a construction mortgage or if it's something that can be part of the purchase plus improvements. But so it would just really depend on what is the amount of work that needs to be done.
So what do you guys think? Do you think there would be a lot of work to be done on this, Ken and Alejandro, or do you think this would be an easy conversion?
Look, when you're trying to convert a basement, honestly, the more finished, the more frustrating it can be. More than likely, that basement ceiling is 1/2-inch drywall, probably uninsulated. It's going to be noisy as all get out. A lot of my clients, they want to separate heating systems. They maybe want to separate hydro. All of that infrastructure is ceiling. We have some low beams. If you want to get a nice open concept, kind of modern apartment, you probably have to gut that place and redo it. So you're probably minimum 120, 130,000. That's what I see.
That's
But
probably
again,
not a first-time home buyer.
all scope of work, and look, there's a lot of people who go into a space like that and do the bare bones minimum, right?
Yeah.
And, yes, there's ways that we can legalize it, with very little work, but it's not always the best thing to do.
So I guess from a yes or no as to whether or not you would take this one on, would it be a no?
What's the purchase price?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to say 550. It's listed for 6, but
Yeah, look,
I
you know
mean,
what? Bungalows in Hamilton have come down a lot in price. Like the same thing, used to be 800, 850, 900, So to get a bungalow in Hamilton, a dated one, even, I wouldn't say this one's necessarily dated, but to get it under 600,000, that's not bad. Like that's still really good. Cash flow is not like it used to be on these bungalows. By the time you renovate it, you're going to put whatever 100K easy into this place. Yes, rents are getting higher, but still cash flow on 2 units alone now, especially at higher interest rates on your mortgage, like you're still barely cash flowing, if at all. Like you
that's
really
why
you need
you wouldn't,
3 or more units to really, if you want a cash flow, that is.
right. And you
So-
wouldn't really be able to put an addition because the lot's really not there. But that's why I'm wondering, could you put on a unit above this one? Would you consider it then?
Yeah, you could do a second floor. You can definitely do a second floor. Like,
And then you're using the existing foundations. You're not
Yeah.
doing that expensive site work.
like, look, 550, that's not a bad price. You can get
Well,
it
that's
for
what I'm
that,
saying. I think it should sell for. It's
You know?
listed for 6, but even still, it's listed for 6.
like,
So we're adding a second unit here. We're doing the basement, and then that works. But
Yeah.
for 3. But then you got to consider the addition, right? The cost of doing that as well, in terms of the calculation of the cash flow. But I like this idea. Always, I like less building envelope. That's always going to be cheaper than, like, say, doing another laneway suite over here, right? So I think doing the addition is a good idea. And that's how I
Make it a second.
that seems like a common sense approach for it.
Well, it won't be available because I will buy it. My yes is a buy. My answer is a buy because I figure, you know, you put them, it's a good price point and you put the money in to create a legal basement suite. That's an excellent area for obtaining renters. It's high traffic, popular area. And I think you can get 2 solid tenants on the top and the bottom. And then as the property appreciates, then you renovate and do the construction to add the second floor. You don't need to do it right away. It could be down in the future as well. But
Yeah,
I like the
this is
location and the price point.
easy project for a first-time homeowner or first-time investor to get into. Like a bungalow conversion, honestly, it doesn't get much easier than that. They're so cookie cutter and easy. As long as you can buy it right, buy it at the right price point, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so yes for this one, maybe?
Yeah, I would say yes. A 550,
Alejandro?
550, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bungalow.
I have a bidding war.
Okay, this is the last property. We're gonna look at this one. This one is completely, this is, if you ever watch Escape to the Country, this is the Mystery House. So this is completely off center, but this is a property in Burlington. I mean, does it make a lot of sense? I know that you looked at the zoning here, Ken, and you know, I'm thinking a lot of people, I know that there's been a property in this area that has rented their basement for $1,800 a month in this particular area. You know, here's the entry, here's the stairs to the basement. So, you know, you're coming in over here, you've got a fairly decent 595 square feet. Ceiling height, the lowest point is 74.5, and that's just in here in the storage area. Otherwise, everything is 79.5 inches. The only thing I don't know how you'd feel about is these windows.
So, like, zoning aside, because this particular zoning right now is not even permitting them, like a accessory apartment or whatever you want to call it. But Burlington, just so everybody knows, Burlington is in the works of updating their bylaws and should be coming out with something shortly.
They're gonna have to. Bill 23 requires it.
Yeah, so
they're gonna have to catch up to that.
No, other zones of the city allow, but this particular zone doesn't for whatever reason. But yeah, like the basement area, you know, because you have that garage there, like it's not huge, right? You're gonna need a concrete walkout to access that basement because the staircase to the basement is like internal to the home. So that makes it somewhat difficult to get into the apartment. So you have to add a concrete walkout. Concrete walkouts, you know, you're $20,000-$25,000 all day long now for a walkout. You know, these homes probably don't have great side yard access, so it's going to be dug with mini excavators. So probably.
I didn't. No, I didn't measure it. Sorry, I didn't measure this one. Sorry.
Like basement windows, like you can definitely cut those windows deeper, bigger window wells to get more natural light. If you did a concrete walkout with the below grade entry door, you know, you could do full glass on the door to get lots of natural light in there. You know, given that storage room can't be used because of the low ceiling height, you know, like you're going to have like a bachelor unit, you know, essentially down there, hard pressed for a 1-bed. Looks more like a bachelor.
Okay.
You know,
I have a crazy idea. Ken, what do you think? Who needs a garage, right?
Well, yeah, like that's the other, you can convert the garage,
It's
right?
right there.
You could also convert the second floor. That's an alternative option as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you get, okay, now this property just is selling for 1.3. So the price doesn't make sense in terms of the purchase. But you might want to live there and have it multi-generational, right? This is where another option may
Yeah,
suit someone.
These types of homes, like we're not seeing investors buying them and converting them and renting them out like as a straight up investment. Really, these are owner
Exactly.
occupied houses and people want to make use of their space. So, you
Mhm.
know,
Like that, yeah, that's it. It strikes me as that, but these houses will be like, in your they're like the state houses of the future, right? Those really big ones that like there's a lot of square footage here. I can see this being a candidate for that in 20, 30 years, for intensification, this particular neighborhood. But yeah, I'm seeing it as a garage. I see the garage as the only area for like real opportunity to do that. But again, like more for a scenario where, say a private client has bought this house and grandma's moving, grandma's moving in to help out with the kids or something like that. And it's about creating like a granny suite in the basement, for example.
Yeah.
Its own kitchen. Yeah, just based on the price. Yeah, I don't think that price point makes sense, right? Like you'd have to turn
Not
this
from
into a
an investor.
fourplex at the very least.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's kind of left field. We don't normally think about these, I think, as houses that could be converted into multiple dwellings. But I think that that there's maybe an opportunity there in the future, as the zoning changes happen. But it looks like it's really tight. Like the thing about newer houses is that there's less backyard.
There, yes, that's true.
Like the possibility of building like a garden suite or a laneway suite for a building like this is very limited.
Yeah.
And that's just we what I guess it's probably like 0.6 density. I'm guessing like they're building to the max 0.6 and lot coverage. Whereas that may not have happened before with our super narrow, really long lots that we tend to have in central Hamilton, many neighborhoods in Toronto, or the inner city suburbs like on the mountain in Hamilton, and and further north, like north of Eglinton in Toronto. Yeah, I don't know. That's it.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of laneway houses in these newer subdivisions. It's impossible. But
Yeah.
there's just.
But like Vancouver, think Vancouver though. I mean, we see houses like this being turned into triplexes. Like they've been doing this for a long time. If you look elsewhere. So.
But not a separate dwelling, definitely.
Yeah, I wonder if the rental would work out in that area. Like, suppose all of these zones are now allowed for 3 units.
So
like
so
rents
if you
would
were
be
to
much
rent the,
higher in a neighborhood like this, right?
that's right. So if you were looking at like an upper level, maybe not a finished basement, you might be looking at about 3,700 a month. If it's a whole house, it's a whole household basement, you might be looking at $4,400 a month. So just for the area, I mean, you'll pull in potentially more rent. So
What is a condo renting for in that area? Like a 1-bedroom condo?
1 bedroom this area, to be honest, I'm not 100%.
Because
You might be looking,
that's the cost that I think would be maybe somehow comparable.
that would be comparable.
There's because there's nothing like that in this market that you can compare it to.
Right.
But yeah, that's once we're done converting once Ken is done converting all of central Hamilton into multi all the houses in the center, we're gonna have to eventually we're gonna have to get to these ones, right?
Yeah.
But I think like what Rachel was saying, oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say, so I'm not sure if anyone, we're coming to an end of our presentation and I wanted to thank you guys. I mean, this was great. It's full of information. It's an extra long video, but that's okay. There's a lot of takeaways here for a lot of people, especially if they are looking into getting into something like this. Is there anyone that had any questions for Ken or Alejandra or Lisa? I don't know if I can see my chat. I don't know why I'm suddenly having issues with this. Okay, here we go. Nope, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you guys. Yeah, thank you. That was excellent. It really was. It was amazing. And everyone will get a copy, a recorded copy, and as well as their contact information. So you can contact Ken or Alejandro or Lisa. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. It was
Thanks for
really
organizing
good.
this,
everyone.
Rachel.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay.
Thanks for
Okay.
having me. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
have a great night.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Yes. Good
Bye.
night.